and welcome to The Quest on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Rakhi Bakshi. This show gives you a deep insight into the life, career and vision of a leading personality. And the personality this week, this time, is a Lok Sabha MP from Sikkim Democratic Front. His name is Mr. Prem Das Rai. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much.
First of all, the current issue, which is really haunting all of us around, and very much here in Delhi that we are seeing protests on Nido's demise. Your reactions?
All right. First, I think must say that it was most unfortunate. Again, Arunachal and the mountains have lost a very young life. An upcoming person. He was an MLA's son, so should have been a very, very successful young man and could have contributed so much to both his state as well as India. But having said all that, I think the issue that is at the heart of it is not a new one.
But that's my question also. Why did it take Nido's sacrifice to actually address this issue now?
Well, he's paid the ultimate sacrifice, let's put it this way, if you want to put it in that perspective. So it has taken, the issue has gone up right up to the government. We've had all the parties actually condemning such a thing. There was very little police action till the time when Rahul Gandhi has stepped in. Now, yesterday, as I was telling you, we were at the all-party meeting, and I was the only MP from the Northeast, and I raised this issue, and there was unanimity amongst all the members of Parliament, all the leaders of the different different parties who were there, and in one voice we said, let's at least have a major discussion on this. You will recall some time back when there was this major exodus of Northeasterners.
Exactly.
Now it all weaves into the same pattern within our own country, where a section of our people who come, of course, to the main heartland, as it were, to work, and then needlessly to say, because they look different, the culture is different.
Exactly. Okay.
But it is
the
not.
issues they want to take up is like they are saying committee should be made. There should be a racial, a law which looks at the racist issues. Do you first of all think that it's an issue in isolation, or would you look at it as a racism kind of issue? Well,
see, if you take the events of the just recent past, when we had one AAP minister also casting some aspersions, and therefore there is racism in some form or the other. There is racism. Not so long ago, even when I think it was the Mizoram Chief Minister who has made it very clear that we look different, so therefore we are treated differently. Now, I think sensitivity, however you like to do it, either through education, through law, through whatever kinds of public policy that we would like to enact, I think it must be done so that the word spreads around that there are different kinds of people in different places. Now, I'm sure a guy from Tamil Nadu wouldn't want to be called a Madrasi, or a guy from, say, let's put it from, say, Karnataka doesn't want to be called a Madrasi. He would like to be known as a person from Karnataka.
Exactly.
And so, therefore, this form of identity and identification is something which can only come about, I believe, through proper education. And I think that is something which must go into our textbooks.
Do you think, you have been an active member of Parliament, but do you think Parliament has also looked into these issues, or some of you have actually raised it to the point that it gets heard?
Okay, let's put it this way, that Parliament as it is has, that this has been billed as one of the worst performing Parliament,
That is giving me another question which will ask later, but answer this first.
So therefore, we haven't had much time to debate even some of the most pressing issues. I would say a 193 to debate this kind of an issue would have, under parliamentary rules, or at least Lok Sabha rules, would have made it very clear. Everyone would have been able to contribute, and there would be something to show for it. And then from that, the government could take some action, prepare some maybe committee, policy, do something so that these kinds of issues are addressed in its full form. recent.
So do you think that space was not given, or you could not get that
Oh,
kind of
well,
space?
space is always an issue in Parliament. I'll give you an example. From my state, we have one major issue, the Karmapa, the 17th Galba Karmapa has not been able to go back to Sikkim. Now, that's a big issue for a state like Sikkim. But we, as a small party, it's very, very difficult, other than through one or two submissions, it's very difficult for us to get the entire attention of Parliament.
And you're referring to this particular 15th Lok Sabha as not really being, performing very well. So how would you look at it? I mean, this performance thing has come up.
All right. So performance indicators, how many days Parliament has had a session, how many days were not, how many hours we have lost. I think on all
feel
counts,
sad?
I feel very sad. I feel very sad because at least as I believe that I have been sent by my people to represent their thoughts, to represent their views, and to represent basically my party in Parliament. And my party represents the full state. So therefore, I have not been able to place all the things that we wanted to place in Parliament like we should have. There are a whole host of other national and international issues on which probably we have something to say. But all those things have been lost. Now, time has gone by. So, I do hope that in the, in this, at least in the last session, we are able to do something. But from yesterday's discussion around the all-party meeting, I think the mood generally was that let's just do whatever has to be done in terms of mandate. In terms of what is statutory or mandatory, like for instance the finance bills, let's get over with it and then let's go to the people.
Okay, so there is so much more that we want to talk to you about, but right now we are taking a very small break in the quest here. Keep watching, we're coming back shortly. Welcome back to the show. You're watching The Quest and we are in conversation with Mr. P.D. Rai. Mr. Rai, looking at you on your personal profile, it's very, very impressive actually. You've studied from IIT and IIM. Very, very impressive for an MP to be educated so well. How did it all start?
Well, I must first say that I'm very grateful to my Chief Minister, who's also the leader of our party, for giving me the space and of course the opportunity to represent my state in Parliament. It started obviously many, many years ago when he founded the party and I was one of his initial members. But it has taken me almost
But you could have taken any other profession as your career.
Well, it's always good to be, I think, once you are in politics, then you do realize that it's so important. It's so important for being, where you can contribute the maximum. No other profession I can imagine gives you this kind of space. Where do you imagine, for instance, to be able to come and get onto Rajya Sabha TV, for instance, unless you were maybe the head of traveling somewhere else. But I'll tell you, it's been a great journey. It's been a great journey, through the party hierarchy. I was, how you start building your own ecosystem to be able to then gradually come up.
Some would argue somewhere, talking about politics in India, that it does not need so much of education to be a politician here. I mean, somebody who just learns it. Okay, your views.
I really beg to differ. The reason I beg to differ is basically because, can you imagine a profession or in Parliament, you are at one day discussing, say, the narcotics and psychotropics drug abuse or, that kind of act or a bill. And the other you're talking about, say, the GST. Or then the third day you're talking about land reforms. And the fourth day you're talking about something like, say, as different as, say, the right to education. Now, which profession gives you that space? And therefore, education and being able to grasp the issues is, I think, significantly very, very important. That is, I think, point number one. Point number two, I think more and more as we get globally connected through issues such as, say, climate change, or through issues such as, say, information technology, or any other issue which makes or trade, and any other thing that allows countries to participate and have to participate with each other. The security issues that come into play, terrorism, and so on and so forth. It requires the member of parliament to be on top of all these issues, especially if you want your country to be suppose we want our country to be be in that elite club of countries that lead the world. So I think Parliament begs for people who are able to tackle all these issues at any point of
Because
time.
we are seeing new idioms in politics. We are seeing new parties coming up, which they say represent the true Indians and the true Aam Aadmi. So there are new chapters being, kind of woven around.
Talking about Aam Aadmi, tell me, the top level leaders, aren't they educated? Do you think Mr. Kejriwal isn't an educated?
In fact, IIT.
He's from IIT Kharagpur, and so therefore, and then all the IITians get very excited about such
Yeah,
things.
such things.
So I would argue that it doesn't mean that the Aam Aadmi is not represented. Okay, and there are just 44 seats in Parliament. And it's not going to change till 2026.
How has been your personal experience as a member of parliament from one of the northeastern states? Have you felt otherwise? Do you think that you're part of this whole melange of member of parliaments who are there, or have you felt that because you belong to a small state or northeast that you haven't got much space? Have you ever personally felt anything like that?
Let's put it this way: it's not. For instance, we know we are small. We know we'll have limited this thing. So we do accept the limitations. But along with that, you need to create the space and opportunities to be able to put your points of view across. And I think Parliament gives you that amount of freedom. I think Parliament also, the processes of Parliament are such that if you do well, then it picks you up. For instance, you are picked up for various kinds of committees.
Exactly, and you're part of some of the important
Yeah,
committees
I'm part of the, I'm the finance committee,
You're a member of.
I'm a member of that. I'm actually chair the fellowship committee. I enjoy that a lot.
Some academic intervention.
Yeah, there is some academic fun out there. And then, I'm a member of the, another committee, the protocol committee, for instance, where we discuss protocol issues. And that has given me actually an insight into how, hierarchies and protocols and all these things are so, important.
So you would agree that there's so much actually which is happening within Parliament as such, which might not be the perception as to how people perceive and look at the whole functioning of Parliament. I mean,
No. The view from the outside is just a sliver. And based upon that sliver, the entire media goes and makes a huge hue and cry about what parliamentarians are or how they behave. Yeah. Etc., etc. But I do believe that these committees, now say for instance, the committee that I'm on finance, I think it's a terrific committee. It's a committee where there are such wonderful and erudite people. For our Mr. Yashwant Sinha, who's our chairperson, he's the ex-finance minister, so he understands all the issues that are there. So much to learn from such committee meetings, and so therefore it goes on, and you can just list the number of things that one can do in Parliament.
When we talk about Sikkim as such, how much do you think is happening as should have happened in your state? Because I know that in your background you've looked at some of these so-called public sector organizations that you've kind of tried to also put your hands in. How would you look at that?
So Sikkim, I think, is a very, very well-run, well-governed state. It has, if you list the number of awards that our Chief Minister and the state has received, it's just quite mind-boggling. I've been involved with the Human Development Report, and it says very clearly that the human development of our state has really risen. The Gini index of our state is such that so it shows that the the distribution of income is very, very good. It's one of the best in the country, and so and our literacy rates are very high.
How are you looking at women's empowerment?
And women's empowerment is one of the best in our country, in the country. And if you see, the last elections to the Gram Panchayats and the other Panchayati Raj bodies, 50% women already given. So, we do not have issues which the rest of the country have. Poverty levels are in single digits. So, with the kind of leadership that my
But you would
chief
like your
minister,
voice to be heard much more centrally?
I would like the voice to be heard much more, but given the structure, is very difficult. However, whatever we have, it's best for us to use whatever platforms we get to be able to build it. I'll give you an example. We started publishing a political and economic journal from Sikkim. We were able to distribute it right from Prime Minister, President and downwards. It is very well received. It was good to inform members of parliament, other members of parliament about Sikkim and Sikkim's own progress. So you can
These are
use
ideas that
these
one
are
can
all
work.
innovations.
Ideas one works
Yeah,
on,
in
yeah.
some innovations that
Yeah.
help us.
So on this point, we are taking another short break here. You are watching The Quest and we are in conversation with Mr. P. D. Rai. Don't go away. We're coming back shortly once again. So you're watching The Quest right now on Rajya Sabha TV and we are talking to Mr. P. D. Rai. Talking about northeastern states and even your state, you have these geopolitical problems and one would, in fact, the first name of any country comes is China, of course. But how would you look at this whole structure of the state as such, which is where it is?
All right. So the state is a landlocked state. On our western border, we have Nepal. On our eastern border, we have Bhutan. In the northern border, we have Tibet, China. And on the southern border, we have, the access to India. So we are really landlocked, which also, because of the kind of terrain, gives us very little room for our, development, the elbow room for development. But having said all that, I think we are the most peaceful border state, okay? And to keep the border state peaceful is also the duty of every citizen of our state. And I think that's something which the responsibility of our government at the state level and also the people of the state, they've taken it to heart. As compared to the rest of the northeastern states, I think we are doing significantly better. But look at the geopolitics. Right at our south, we have Bangladesh, we have Nepal, we have Bhutan, and then you have China, and then on the far end, you have Myanmar.
So except for Bhutan, I would say some or the other little issues with other the countries, other than China, I'm saying, keep coming up.
Yes, certainly, and sometimes it spills over because North Bengal, you have it's a little bit violence prone. You have, a large amount of immigrant population, which I think comes in from, say, Bangladesh. So that's an issue that is going
Keeps
to
getting
gets coming up.
attention
Yeah.
also.
And then I would say that there is, to my mind, there is a very important point that because we are so strategically placed, we have the Nathula border, which is opened in 2006, and we have border trade. So we would like to see much more border trade or trade actually happen through this particular axis. But I guess it is going to take time, and there is a security kind of issue which I think Government of India always looks at it from. But to me and to the rest of our state, I think if we can start, because we depend very, very heavily on tourism. Sikkim, actually, Lonely Planet has said that in 2014 it is it's the best destination to visit. Lonely Planet has.
But are you happy with the kind of tourists or the numbers that are coming?
Yeah, so the numbers of tourists that are coming are going to be, in fact, in larger numbers. But suppose we were able to see that they would also be able to visit, say, Tibet, Lhasa, for instance, then I think these numbers would increase dramatically. And if that were to happen, then Sikkim would definitely benefit, North Bengal would benefit, that entire region would benefit, and I dare say even Bangladesh would benefit.
You know, but generally when we talk about women's issues in Delhi, we are really concerned a lot. But talking about other states, especially northeastern also, I mean, some of these issues which came up here in Delhi also on January 25th, some Manipuri women had some problem. So when you look at the issue of women as such in your state or not the northeastern states as such, what do you feel should be done more to kind of look at their safety, security and welfare?
I think other than maybe a little bit in Assam, the rest of the states have very good. First of all, I think on balance, I would say that women's empowerment is good. Women are well respected in our society. Women don't fall into any form of violence the way there's violence against women. And so therefore, the kinds of problems that we hear of in other parts of India are by and large absent in most of the northeastern states. States
or do you think there's not enough of attention by the media or the society as such?
On
things happening?
On things happening? No, I would say not. Really, I would say that there is generally, I mean, this is my very well considered view, that women do have a better position in our society.
But why many of them are not in politics and we don't have...
No, you're not. You please, as I said, it's politics. I mean,
Local
today
level,
at the local level, it's 50%, as I told you. But even we've had a woman speaker some time back. We have 2 cabinet ministers in our.
So we'll be glad if the number rises.
And the numbers are definitely going to rise. Yeah. It will definitely going to rise.
Yeah, so coming back to the question, the issue that we started now that we are shortly wrapping up also the program about the Northeast as such, do you think now there is hope that there would be more awareness, there would be a new light to the fact that how everybody is a brother and a sister around us, nobody looks different? And do you think it needs a lot of time to get a shift in attitude as such?
Look, this happened in a market. Okay, so let's take the view of say Nidotan. He was beaten up in a market in a very big market.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what kinds of people are there in that market? I would consider that they are fairly well-to-do people.
Yeah.
In full view of all of these kinds of people, this thing was carried out. Now, wouldn't they be knowing that there are people from other parts of the country? Sure, they would. But definitely, I think we should not give up hope that one day everybody from any part of our country would be considered and would be respected as another citizen, as you rightly put it, as a brother or a sister. And it would be my dream to see that such a situation would indeed come about. And I think the way forward in this is to pay a lot more attention to education. A lot more attention has to be paid to the way we construct our textbooks, the way our history is written. There's very little history written about the Northeast,
Exactly.
for instance.
And its contributions is all around us.
And then there's no mention about the contributions made by only sections of the population who have made contribution are highlighted.
And just last thought also on governance as such, we're talking also about corruption, which is a major issue all around. You've just attended 1 or 2 very important meetings. We'll be very soon going to elections. So what are your thoughts on how things would be more transparent and should be?
Look, I think the Election Commission by and large is doing a great job. They are trying to keep and maintain, and I think it's institutionalized in their own DNA, how to improve the quality of transparency. I think one of the very good ideas was that every polling booth in all across the country should be fitted with cameras, which should be fitted with the CCD cameras, should be, everything should be recorded. We have technology now, it's not very difficult to do these things. once this is done, then the question of anyone trying to intimidate, to do all kinds of other hanky-panky things would be, then the question of, then the question of funding comes. Some unrealistic numbers are there. For instance, in the state of Sikkim, our state is very large in terms of the geographical area that we have to cover, and the kind of the costs that they are allowing us to incur is ridiculously low. So we have made a representation that this should be increased.
Okay. So you're saying state specific, specific requirements.
I think all mountain states have different parameters, but you can't have, say, for instance, the price of, say, petrol is and the amount you utilize on a journey in Sikkim would be far different from what you do in the plains. So these things need to be factored in, and the state funding of elections. I think that also came up because smaller parties, and then I think there was a very interesting view which was taken that these pre-poll kind of scenarios and poll forecasts as they were should be banned, because so one party says it's okay, who's riding the wave, and there's another party which says no, it should be banned. So these things continue to dog our election commission, but I must give them credit for having conducted the elections, and I'm sure they will continue to improve upon the conduct of these elections in time to come.
Thank you so much for talking to us and sparing your time to come on this show, The Quest, and all the very best for whatever you do and for all the endeavors that you are into right now. And this is Mr. P.D. Rai we were in conversation with. Hope you liked this edition of The Quest. Thank you for watching. Namaskar and bye-bye.